Good day, everyone. I've been reading the debates surrounding PAX Silica, and after listening to both supporters and critics, I realized something. I think we're arguing about the wrong thing. This is not really a debate about America, it's not even a debate about artificial intelligence. It's now a debate about what kind of country we believe the Philippines can become. Because every generation has a defining economic decision. Japan had industrialization, South Korea had manufacturing, Taiwan had semiconductors. Singapore became a global financial and logistics hub. Vietnam opened itself to global manufacturing. The question now is, what will the Philippines be known for? Or are we simply going to watch other opportunity pass by while our neighbors move ahead? Let me make one thing very clear. I'm not saying PAX Silica should be approved no matter what. I'm not saying we should ignore environmental concerns. Um, I'm not saying we should compromise our sovereignty. And I'm certainly not saying every foreign investment is automatically good. No. Every agreement should be scrutinized. Every lease should be transparent. Every environmental regulation should be enforced. Every promise should be measurable. If the agreement is bad, reject it. If it doesn't protect Philippine interests, walk away. That's what a sovereign country does. But rejecting an idea before we've even seen the final agreement isn't patriotism, it is fear. The neo-colonialism argument. Let's talk about the biggest criticism. This is just another form of neo-colonialism. I understand why people say that. History teaches us to be cautious, but history should also teach us something else. Strong countries don't avoid foreign investment. They negotiate from a position of strength. Singapore hosts American companies, Chinese companies, Japanese companies, European companies. Is Singapore a colony? Vietnam receives tens of billions of dollars in foreign investment every year. Has Vietnam surrendered its sovereignty? Taiwan manufactures the world's most advanced semiconductors for foreign customs. Did Taiwan stop being Taiwanese? Of course not. The nationality of the investor isn't the issue. The terms of the agreement are. That's where our attention should be. They're going to take our land. This is another claim I keep hearing. They're taking Philippine land. Let's slow down. The Philippines actually has one of the most restrictive constitutional rules on foreign ownership of land in Asia. Foreigners generally cannot own private land here. Instead, major foreign investors usually operate through long-term leases or other arrangements permitted under Philippine law. In other words, the land remains in the Philippines, the laws remain Philippine laws, the courts remain Philippine courts. The question is not ownership. The question is whether we negotiate lease terms and investment conditions that truly benefit Filipinos. That is where public debate should focus, not slogans, facts. They're only after our minerals. Now let's discuss what I think is actually the strongest criticism. People say they only want our copper, they only want our nickel, they only want our critical minerals. You know what? They're probably right. Of course they do. The whole world wants critical minerals. The United States, China, Japan, Europe, South Korea, because copper, nickel, and other critical minerals are becoming what oil was in the 20th century. They're essential for electric vehicles, power grids, semiconductors, AI hardware, defense systems, renewable energy. The real question isn't whether foreigners want our minerals. Of course they do. The real question is, what are we going to do with them? Because for decades, we've exported raw materials. Then other countries refined them, manufactured products from them, added enormous value, then sold products back to us. We captured the smallest share of the value chain. They captured the largest. That's the mistake. So instead of saying, don't touch our minerals, why don't we say, if you want access to our resources, then process them here. Train Filipino engineers, build advanced manufacturing, partner with universities, develop Filipino suppliers, create research centers, help build an industry, not just a mine. That should be our negotiating position because resources alone never made countries rich. The Democratic Republic of Congo has enormous mineral wealth. It remains one of the poorest countries in the world. Japan, however, relatively has few natural resources. The South Korea has few natural resources. Singapore, almost none. Yet they become wealthy. Why? Because they added value. They didn't simply export rocks, they exported technology. Our greatest wealth is not what's under the ground. Our greatest wealth is what Filipinos can build from it. Now let's go to the agriculture argument. The Philippines should stay agriculture. I don't understand this mindset. Who says we should have to choose? Who decided agriculture and technology are enemies? Japan still farms, South Korea still farms, Taiwan still farms. The Netherlands is one of the world's biggest agricultural exporters. Yet, they're also leaders in technology and manufacturing. Nobody tells them choose between farming and industry because developed countries understand something we often forget. Agriculture feeds people. Industry creates higher paying jobs. Technology increases productivity in both. These aren't competing ideas, they're complementary. Want to help farmers? Give them better roads, reliable electricity, AI powered irrigation, precision agriculture, weather forecasting, modern logistics, cold storage, better access to markets. Technology doesn't destroy agriculture, it transforms it. Now let's go to the water argument. Let's talk about what is probably the most emotional argument. We can live without AI. We can't live without water. Of course we can't. Nobody drinks artificial intelligence. Nobody is arguing against clean water. But here's what bothers me. Why do we keep presenting this as a choice? Why does the Philippines always think it can only solve one problem at a time? Why can't we improve our water systems and develop advanced industries? Why can't we build reservoir, modernize irrigation, reduce water losses, protect watersheds, recycle wastewater, and build technology parks. Countries around the world do exactly that. So why are our standards for ourselves so much lower? If our water system is inadequate, then fix it. That's a governance issue, not a reason to reject industrial development. The power argument. People also say we don't even have enough electricity. Exactly. So, what's the solution? Stop building industries forever or build more power? Expand transmission, upgrade substations, improve grid reliability, build cleaner energy where appropriate, invest in storage, reduce transmission losses. Growing economies don't wait until everything is perfect before investing. They invest because growth creates demand. Demand justifies more infrastructure. That's how development has always worked. The environment. Now, let me say something that might be controversial. I support environmental protection, but I don't support selective environmentalism. Every year, farmland becomes subdivisions, commercial centers, warehouses, private resorts. Very few people protest. Then a high-tech industrial project is proposed, and suddenly development itself becomes the enemy. That isn't consistency. Real environmentalism asks better questions. How much water will it consume? How will wastewater be treated? What emission standards apply? How will biodiversity be protected? How will compliance be monitored? Those are intelligent questions. Simply saying no isn't an environmental policy, it's an opinion. Now, the artificial intelligence isn't optional. Some people say we don't need AI. Whether we like it or not, AI is already here. It's helping doctors diagnose diseases, helping engineers design bridges, helping farmers monitor crops, helping banks detect fraud, helping manufacturers reduce waste, helping governments analyze disasters. The question isn't whether AI will exist, it will. The question is, will Filipinos help build that future or simply buy it from countries that did? As someone in real estate, people ask me why I care. Because I don't just sell property, I study how economies grow. Property values don't rise because people get excited. They rise because productivity rises. When high value industries arrive, they create jobs. Universities expand. Research grows. Hospitals improve. Small businesses emerge. Infrastructure improves. Families stay together because more opportunities exist here at home. That is real development. My biggest concern isn't PAX Silica. My biggest concern is our mindset. Sometimes I feel we become a nation that specializes in explaining why things can't be done. No airport, no railway, no mining, no power plant, no industrial park, no foreign investment, no technology hub. Eventually, everything becomes impossible. And then we ask why our neighbors keep moving ahead. Development isn't about saying yes to everything. It's about learning how to say yes responsibly. That's what mature countries do. So, here's where I stand. I support PAX Silica if it strengthens the Philippines, not weakens it. If Philippine law governs the project, if environmental standards are enforced, if local communities benefit, if Filipino workers are trained, if technology is transferred, if local businesses become part of the supply chain, if our universities gain research partnerships, if we move beyond exporting raw materials toward creating high value products, if those conditions are met, then this isn't America winning. This isn't China losing. This is the Philippines finally deciding to compete. Because at the end of the day, the greatest risk isn't that foreign countries are thinking about their own interest. Every country does that. The greatest risk is that we stop thinking strategically about our own. I don't want the Philippines to become a museum that preserves the economy of the past. I want us to become a country that feeds its people, protects its environment, powers its industries, builds world class technology, and gives our children a reason to build their future here instead of somewhere else. The future is coming whether we like it or not. Artificial intelligence isn't waiting. Advanced manufacturing isn't waiting. The global economy isn't waiting. The only question left is this: when history looks back at this moment, will it say the Philippines had the courage to build the future, or that we were too afraid to even try?
Some decisions move you forward. The ride home does exactly that. Hurry up now.